Tonight on In Focus, diplomacy and deterrence collide across two borders. In the occupied West Bank, 8 countries issue a unified condemnation of what they describe as Israeli violations after Israel approved the registration of vast areas of Area C as state property, unless Palestinians can prove ownership. The United Nations warns that the move risks disposition and undermines the two-state solution. Meanwhile, in Gaza, despite a ceasefire, aid missions are reportedly obstructed and civilians are killed in renewed airstrikes. In Lebanon, President Joseph Aoun declares that the state will deploy its army to the internationally recognized southern border, urging Washington to pressure Israel to withdraw. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri anchors Lebanese discourse firmly in UN Security Council Resolution 1701, rejecting war, but also rejecting submission. I'm Hera Al-Hamalawi. Stay tuned. Al-Sharq Al-Awsat's article argues that recent Israeli policies are rapidly undermining the territorial basis for a future Palestinian state. It highlights plans to expand Jerusalem's municipal boundaries beyond the pre-1967 lines through settlement projects, effectively imposing de facto Israeli sovereignty over parts of the occupied West Bank. The piece asserts that these unilateral moves, coupled with Israel's newly approved land registration measures, erode the possibility of Palestinian statehood and violate international law. The Palestinian Authority, with limited tools to counter the encroachment, is urging reliance on international law and global pressure. Critics warn that such expansion will intensify tensions and diminish prospects for a negotiated two-state solution. The foreign ministers of 8 countries, Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Indonesia, Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, issued one of the strongest coordinated diplomatic rebukes of Israeli policy in the occupied West Bank in recent years. They condemned Israel's designation of large areas as state land, calling it illegal under international law, including the 4th Geneva Convention and UN Security Council Resolution 2334. At the same time, the United Nations reports that nearly half of coordinated humanitarian aid missions in Gaza have been blocked or delayed despite the ceasefire, and recent airstrikes have killed civilians. And to unpack this, we're joined from occupied Jerusalem by Mrs. Ratiba Nacha, member of the Palestinian National Action Committee. Welcome, Mrs. Ratiba, to Qnews. Let me start by asking you, how significant is this joint statement by the 8 countries? Is this merely diplomatic language, or does it signal a coordinated regional strategy?
Unfortunately, these diplomatic ways didn't make any real appearance in the Israeli policies, and we witnessed several times Israeli violation, not just on the Palestinian rights, but on the human rights and the international laws and all the kinds of agreements and international agreements that it held. I think without taking a real action, a joint action to put real pressure on Israel, not a diplomatic one, maybe something more than the diplomatic statement against Israel, it will continue its annexation for the West Bank. It will continue controlling not just the West Bank and Gaza, but maybe, as they say, from the river to the sea, it will be under the Israeli control. The Israeli ministers and leaders say it loudly without any shame that they have a strategic plan to annex Israel, to Greater Israel, the project of Greater Israel, and they have no shame to say that they want to end the dream of the Palestinian state, and there is no two-state solution, no Oslo agreement, and neither any kind of Palestinian authority will be in the future in these lands. Mm-hmm. So I think that just having a diplomatic statement is not enough to stop Israel from its violation for the Palestinian rights and ending the two-state solution once forever.
Mm-hmm. The ministers described the land registration decision as illegal under international law. So from a legal standpoint, what makes this move so controversial legally?
Actually, it's not just because it's violation of the international law or against the international law that recognizes the Palestinian land in the West Bank as an occupied land, and there's no such registration has been done since the occupation 1967 till now. Having a new registration for these lands as a state land, it's not just against the international law, but it's stalling the priorities, the properties of the Palestinian people and their resources of living, and putting the Palestinian people in small ghettos that located them out of their lands and agricultural lands and any future development, economic development resources that can build the Palestinian state. We are talking about more than 60% of the West Bank, which is Area C, that Israel is trying to put a hand on it by this law, and to consider it as priorities for the Israeli state land. So it's not just about legitimizing this action, but it's more about putting the Palestinian in 200 ghettos that will be by de facto installed by having these isolated ghettos from each other, and end the two-state solution and any chance of a Palestinian state in the future. And it makes people more and more in poverty, make any future Palestinian state without any kind of resources in the future.
Mm-hmm. Israel, of course, claims that land registration is an administrative process. Critics call it de facto annexation. Where does the reality lie from your own point of view?
It's annexation without having any responsibility on the civilians. So they want to annex the West Bank without the land of the West Bank without the people and the Palestinian people. So we are talking about a silent annexation. It's more than just a protocol or a law or something like that, but it's to take as much land as they could and without taking any kind of responsibilities on the people in these areas.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. As you mentioned, Mrs. Ratiba, Area C represents about 60% of the West Bank. If up to 83% of that area could be classified as state land, what would that mean for Palestinian territorial continuity?
As I mentioned before, it means that they will took land without people. They will located people in 200 isolated ghettos from each other, because there will not be any kind of continuously spaces between these villages. That it's now located by checkpoints and gates, but now there will be more and more control on these lands. So the Palestinian people will not be able to cross from one village to another or from one city to another without passing from these Israeli lands. They want to compete, and that means that not just they will lose their resources and lands, but they will lose their ability to move from one place to another.
So they will be imprisoned in certain areas, right?
Yes, we are talking about 200 isolated jails that they will be located in them.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that the move could lead to greater dispossession. How seriously is this warning being taken internationally? The role of the international community here?
We hear about statements condemning this step. We hear about a lot of statements that it's against this kind of annexation, but no real action has been taken till now. So I think that if really the European states, the West, the US, and the other countries, not just the 8 countries that make this joint statement, but other countries all over the world. We have 150 countries that recognize Palestine and recognize the two-state solution. If they didn't take any kind of real action against this step, I think that Israel will put control by de facto on the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and maybe furthermore.
Does this decision effectively weaken the viability of a two-state solution, or has that framework already been eroded beyond repair before even the step was taken?
Before this step, the Israeli government announced that they didn't.
They refused the two-state solution.
They refused the two-state solution, yes. But by this action, they make it by de facto impossible to talk about any future solution as a two-state solution by taking these resources of the Palestinian people and taking control by force over their land.
Turning to Gaza, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says that nearly half of aid missions were impeded between February the 6th and the 11th. What does that tell us about the reality of the ceasefire?
As we always say, it's not a real ceasefire. It's maybe this kind of ceasefire. It's depends on the Israeli calculation to any kind of escalation anytime they want or they have any suspicious. They still control the entering of aid. There's no flow for real humanitarian aid in Gaza. I think the possibilities of rebuilding Gaza and starting of rebuilding Gaza is still very far because of these regulations that Israel is putting on the humanitarian aid and entering several materials to Gaza Strip. Still, we are very far away from a real ceasefire on action. Israel is still controlling more than 65% of the Gaza Strip, and it seems that it's impossible for most of the aid organization, international organization, to work and have a real work plan on Gaza Strip and aiding the people.
This is Ratiba Nacha, member of the Palestinian National Action Committee in occupied Jerusalem. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. And if the West Bank debate centers on land and legality, Lebanon's debate centers on borders and state authority. Beirut is recalibrating its language not towards war, but towards concession either. President Joseph Aoun speaks of deploying the Lebanese army to the internationally recognized southern border. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri insists that UN Security Council Resolution 1701 remains the sole legal framework governing de-escalation. The German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier visited Beirut on February the 16th, 2026, pledging continued support for Lebanon as the United Nations interim force in Lebanon, known as UNIFIL, prepares to end its mission later this year after nearly 5 decades. Washington Post stated that Steinmeier said that Germany will stand with Lebanon and help bolster state authority, including training Lebanese forces and backing security efforts in the south. He also stressed the need for Hezbollah's disarmament and for Israel to fully withdraw from Lebanese territory in line with the 2024 U.S. brokered ceasefire. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun welcomed the support, emphasizing Lebanon's desire for peace, sovereignty, and rebuilding after the devastating 14-month war with Hezbollah and Israel. And for more analysis, we're joined from Pennsylvania by political analyst Malik Francis. Welcome, Mr. Francis, to Q News. Let me start by asking you, President Joseph Aoun frames army deployment to the southern border as a matter of sovereignty. Is this primarily a security strategy or a political statement?
First, thank you for having me. It's nice to see you again. And as Ramadan and the Christian fast coincide together this year, I want to wish you, Q News, and all Muslims and Christian happy and holy land. And not to forget our brothers and sisters in Gaza.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, in regard to President Aoun, I do support him, and he's trying his best to liberate south of Lebanon from the Israelis. Unfortunately, he cannot do it because we don't have the support. Our army is a strong army, but we don't have the equipment. And no one will try to have the Lebanese army by giving them jets or missiles in order to defend Lebanon from the Israeli aggression. As Israel claims that its security is the red line, the Lebanese have a security too. And Hezbollah, unfortunately, cannot defend Lebanon from the Israelis. It's time for Hezbollah to surrender its missiles and military equipments, and their militants or their soldiers should be integrated into the Lebanese army. Then the Lebanese army may be able to stop the Israelis' incursion into south of Lebanon.
How feasible is full Lebanese army deployment if Israeli forces remain in disputed positions?
As you know, and everybody knows that Israel has its own law. They never honored a treaty or any of the UN resolutions because of the help of United States governments, all the government of United States, from Truman until now. And President Trump has been really a good ally of Israel. And how could you deal with a terrorist state governed by a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu? So it's really very difficult for anyone to deal with Israel because they are not respecting any international law. Look what's going on in Gaza. What is the Trump administration? And he promised to bring peace. We don't see any peace in Gaza or in south of Lebanon, in Yemen, or in Sudan. So we are having problems because there is no more international law. There is now Trump's law, and your nation now is very ineffective because of Trump's board of peace. And we don't know what he's going to do with his board of peace. The only solution, as I said before, and many my friends in the Arab world didn't like it, it's time for the Arab states that have a diplomatic relationship to end it. That's the only solution that we could maybe send a strong message to the Israelis and to everyone else that has been supporting Israel, killing Palestinians, Lebanese, and Syrians. Because as you know, now Israel inside Syria now, they occupy part of Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, and nobody could stop them. We don't have anyone. No one could face Israel. Israel is a very strong army because of the help of the Trump administration.
Yes.
And as you know, the U.S. has plenty of military warehouses within Israel. So Israel could use any of the American military equipments. So how could really the Lebanese army, and I do respect and support the Lebanese army, but they cannot really defend Lebanon from Israelis' attack.
Yes. Mr. Francis, since you mentioned the role of the United States, particularly the role of U.S. President Donald Trump, let me ask you, Aoun is explicitly calling on Washington to pressure Israel. What does this reveal about Lebanon's reliance on U.S. leverage?
I do respect President Aoun, and really I give him credits, but he should understand, he and other Lebanese leaders, that the U.S. will not support Lebanon because Israel, the Israeli lobby, controls the American foreign policy in the Middle East. So it's waste of time. A long time ago, when Prime Minister Hariri, when he went to Russia, Putin offered him military jet fighters, military equipments in order to stop the Israelis' attack. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Hariri was afraid of Washington, so he turned it down. Lebanon cannot survive without a strong allies, and we don't have any. Syria the same way now. In Syria, look what's happening in Syria. In Gaza, people are dying every day. Israel has no respect for the ceasefire. That it was really Trump that called for a ceasefire when they met in Sharm el-Sheikh. What happened? Food is not coming into Gaza. So what are we going to do about it? Unfortunately, we could see children starving in Gaza, homes they are destroyed in south of Lebanon. The Israelis are using chemical weapons now to burn all the farms in southern of Lebanon. And no one is saying a word. Yes, I thank the president of Germany in Lebanon when he was in Lebanon and met with Lebanese officials, but he is unable to do anything. He's afraid of Israel. The whole world, unfortunately, is afraid of Israel. And this is unacceptable, but we cannot do anything about it. That's the sad issue, really.
So does this appeal risk internationalizing Lebanon's border issue further, or is it already deeply internationalized?
It's not, unfortunately. Where is United Nations? Where are our allies and friends in Europe, especially France? Nobody would. It seems that the Zionist organization controls all the government, and that's why they come up with the Epstein file now, because many Europeans leaders or business people and Americans have been involved with Epstein, and I think the Israeli Mossad has all the information about everyone, and that's why President President Trump has been a hostage of the Israeli lobby, and this is against the interest of United States and the interest of the American people. We need a president to fulfill his promises, to be the president of peace. He's not the president of peace, unfortunately. He promised to do it. He claimed that he stopped 8 wars. I don't know where the wars he stopped, and he has been crying and mad because he did not get the Nobel Peace Prize. Bring peace to the Middle East, to the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, then he may get it. But he cannot force the committee to give him the Nobel Peace Prize for doing nothing up to now.
Turning to Lebanese Prime Minister Nabih Berri, why is Resolution 1701 being reaffirmed so strongly now?
Believe it or not, Hezbollah did not violate the UN Resolution 1701. And President of the Parliament, Nabih Berri, who's a great guy, and I respect him, I know him, but they are only talking. Nobody is listening to the cries of the Lebanese people or the Lebanese politicians. So the Arab nations, as I said, who have relationship with Israel, could put an end to the Israelis' attacks and Israeli wars against Syrian, Lebanese, and the Palestinians in Gaza. But I think we need a miracle. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. So the Lebanese, Syrian, and Palestinians will continue to suffer. And the war criminal is proud of what he's doing, killing young children, women, and elderly, and starving the Palestinian people in Gaza. And in Israel, unfortunately, in the past, there used to be Israeli organization to work for human rights, but nobody really now is talking about the human rights of the Palestinian people in Gaza or the human rights of the Lebanese in southern Lebanon or all over Lebanon.
Sir, let's elaborate more on Nabih Berri's statements. He insists on the pure implementation of 1701 without reinterpretation. Is this defensive diplomacy, in your own opinion?
No, I think Nabih Berri, his job is to talk about it and to ask for United Nations or the international community to help Lebanon enforce UN Resolution 1701. But unfortunately, their ears are closed. and they are blind to what's going on in the Middle East, and nothing's going to happen. I thank the president of the parliament, Mr. Nabih Berri, but nothing is going to happen. The Lebanese leader could talk about it, could cry, could scream. Now, the president of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun, with due respect, could maybe meet with Masad Boulos, who is an advisor to President Trump, and his son is married to Tiffany, the youngest daughter of Trump. It may help, but unfortunately, a Jew like Wickoff or Kushner work for Israel. But we Lebanese or Arabs who we have people in high places in Washington, they're afraid of working for their people in the Middle East, especially Masoud Boulos, who is very powerful now, but he has done nothing. So if you have no friends in high places in Washington, in Paris, all over the world, how are you going to really bring peace to your homeland? And
But the thing
it's
is, sir,
it's
that
very depressing.
yes, the thing is, Nabih Berri's rhetoric balances rejecting war and rejecting submission at the same time. So, how do you view this?
No, I support him, but what could he do? He cannot do anything. If Hezbollah now joined the Lebanese army, because Hezbollah is still very powerful, they have enough ballistic missiles to be used against Israel if Israel tries to invade Lebanon. But the problem here, Iran controls Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Hezbollah will not really work with the Lebanese government by surrendering its military equipments, because if the U.S. and Israel bomb Iran after the holidays, so Hezbollah may attack Israel. If it does, and God help everyone, because Benjamin Netanyahu is waiting for a small mistakes in order to invade Lebanon.
Do these coordinated messages from Aoun and Berri signal internal political alignment or tactical unity under external pressure?
I think both of them, I think, have good relationship, and I like it that for the first time, the president of Lebanon, the prime minister, speaker of the House, are working together for the first time in the history of Lebanon. Really, they are not fighting each other, and that's what we need. That's what really sent a positive message to the Lebanese people that Lebanon and the Lebanese are united when it comes to the Israeli aggression, and even to our friends and allies in the Arab world, because Lebanon cannot rebuild what Israel destroyed without the help of the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia. And Egypt has been really the best friend of Lebanon since 1975, when the civil war broke, and many Arab nations supporting different factions. But Egypt and the government of Egypt were always talking about the government of Lebanon, and did not really take any side with any militia or any groups in Lebanon. And we need more Arab nations such as Egypt. And I thank the Egyptian president, government, and people for their help, and for their always standing by Lebanon.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, ultimately, does Lebanon's strategy reduce the risk of escalation, or does it merely postpone a deeper confrontation?
I think it's going to move Lebanon if Hezbollah attacks Israel, if Israel and United States attack Iran. I think we are going to have a volcano is going to erupt, and nobody would be able to stop it, and Lebanon will be destroyed, because, as I said, Israel has enough American military equipment to do it, and Benjamin Netanyahu wants to do it. The guy is a war criminal. He loves war, unfortunately. He loves killing. And President Trump is unable to do anything. He won't even dare. And the Europeans are involved in the Ukrainian-Russians conflict. And the Arab world, really, most of them who gave money to President Trump, gave him trillions, will not even try to do anything, because they're afraid of him at the same time. And they have good relationship with Israel. So it's very, very difficult, really. And we always call for a strong Arab League, with maybe an Arab military peacekeeping force. We, the Arabs, we have the money, we have the people, we have the
Hmm.
scientists. We could be a
Yes.
superpower if we get united. But as I said,
Yes.
we need a miracle.
Exactly.
Look
We
what's
get your
happening in
point.
Sudan. You
Yes.
have Emirat is supporting one side. You have other nations supporting the other side. We have to work together in order
Hmm.
to bring peace to our people, and
Exactly.
we could do it
Yes.
by being united.
Yes. Mr. Malik Francis joining us from Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today's episode of In Focus. My name is Halal Hamilawi. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.